This is the fourth video in our series on how to move to more of a conversation-based selling approach. In this video, we are going to explain how this can completely change how you approach and handle cold emailing sales prospects. But before we discuss how to sell the conversation in your cold email messages, let's take a step back and look at what most salespeople do, and that is that most salespeople use a more product selling approach with their cold email messages. And product selling salespeople primarily focus on communicating, this is who I am, this is the company I'm with, this is what we sell. Do you need what I sell? Are you interested in what I sell? Can I schedule a meeting with you to discuss what I sell? And when you convert this way of communicating to cold email messages, that usually looks something like this. Hi, Michael. I'm with Websites Redesigned for You. We provide web design services, graphic design, web hosting. Are you looking to redo your website? Are you available for a call? Now, this is a very trimmed down example of cold email messages that I receive every day. And while most of those messages have much more information than this, just about 90 to 95% of them follow this outline and use a more product selling approach. And that is that they all start with the salesperson saying who they are and the company they work with, outlining the product or service they sell, asking if I need or if I'm interested in what they sell. And many of them do close for a call or a meeting, which you could look at that one part of the email and say that aligns with what we're talking about here, which is selling the conversation. But if you're selling a meeting to talk to the prospect about your product or service, you're still leaning more towards selling the product than selling the conversation. Now, you could actually look at this approach and think that this is a logical approach. If you're a salesperson and you have a product to sell, then it would make the most sense to send a cold email explaining what you sell and seeing if the prospect needs or wants what you sell. But that approach is flawed and does not position you for success for many reasons. First of all, most of the prospects you send cold emails to are not in buying mode for the product or service you sell at the exact time that they receive your cold email. And that creates a mismatch between what you're emailing them to talk about and where they mentally are at that exact time. And your prospects are receiving a lot of cold emails every day. And nothing makes you sound more like a salesperson who is trying to sell something than a cold email that uses a product selling approach. So when you create a mismatch, and you sound like a salesperson who's trying to sell something, you're sending emails that have a very high probability of being instantly deleted by the prospect. But another reason why this is a less than optimum approach is that if you're sending cold emails that are selling the product, that email is only optimized and going to connect with prospects who are actively looking to buy that product or service. In other words, you might be emailing prospects who need what you sell, but they are either not aware of the fact that they need what you sell, or they're just not actively buying what you sell at that exact time. And these are prospects who it might not make sense to try to sell your product to, but these are prospects it would make sense to have conversations with. So a more optimum approach would be to send cold emails that are able to communicate to a larger audience of prospects who are at different stages of needing or buying the product or service that you sell. And we can move in that direction and minimize all of those challenges by shifting from selling the product with our cold emails and use an approach that focuses more on selling the conversation. And so the first thing that we can do to go in this direction is that if we're not trying to sell the product with our cold email messages, we can decrease and eliminate talking about the company we work for and the product we sell in our cold email messages. And you might think, well, that makes sense, but if I don't talk about the product or service that I sell, what am I going to talk about in my cold email messages? And the answer to that can be found in the sales message and the building blocks that we talked about creating in the last video. You have a lot to talk about with your prospects. And the product that you sell is just one part of that. What we can do is we can send cold emails that focus on different areas of the story that we have to tell. And we can use different pieces of our sales message to educate the prospect on who we are and why it might make sense for them to have a conversation with us. For example, if you sold memberships to a health and fitness club, and if you go out and talk to prospects, you are going to end up talking to prospects who are very far away from even thinking about joining a health and fitness club. And if you email them or call them to talk about your fitness club, they will tell you they are not interested because there's a mismatch there. But the benefits of a health and fitness club are getting healthier, feeling better, having more confidence, decreasing stress, becoming happier. Those benefits are interesting to many people, interesting to people who are not actively looking to purchase a membership to a health and fitness club. In other words, the audience of people who are interested in the improvements that the health and fitness club provide is very large. We can design our cold email and our approach to where we try to have conversations with the people who are interested in improving the areas that we can improve and solving the problems that we can help to solve. And we can sell that audience on having conversations about getting healthier and feeling better. And it's in those conversations that we can then begin to sell the product that can deliver those improvements. So there's many ways to create email messages from these building blocks, but one very simple way is to create a cold email message for each building block. For example, you could create a value points cold email message that highlights and outlines the benefits and value your product or service can deliver. Here is a template that you could use as a starting place to get ideas from. And these templates that I'm going to share with you pull information from your sales message, and I've color-coded with a key where these bullet points and text come from so that if you create your sales message, you can then fill in these templates with the points for your product or service. You could create a similar cold email message that highlights the pain points or challenges you help your customers to resolve, minimize, or avoid. You could create a customer example email that shares a story of another customer that your product or service helped. You could share the pain that they had before working with you and how your product or service helped to deliver improvements to them. You could create an email that has some of the questions that you're wanting to learn about the prospect. And certainly in your series, you could create a cold email that includes details about your product and what it includes and how it's different from the competition. And the last template here is an optional template that's designed to be somewhat of a last attempt email that can go back to the benefits your product or service delivers. And if you create email templates for each of those building blocks, you could actually string those together to create a cold email campaign that might look like this. And this is an email campaign that is designed to educate the prospect on who you are, how you can help, and why it might make sense for them to have a conversation with you. Now, this is very different from what most salespeople do, and I'm speaking from my experience of receiving a lot of cold emails every day. Most salespeople, for their email number one, they send a product selling email. And notice that's their email number one. In our email series, we send the product email as email number 5. And when the prospect ignores and does not respond to the product selling email the salesperson sends as email 1, in just about every case, if that salesperson sends a follow-up email, it's usually just a repeat of email number 1 with maybe a point added at the top. Did you see my last email? I'm following up on my previous email. And then it's just a repeat of the same information about the product or service they sell. And if they send a third email, it's again the same email with, I'm following up again. I'm bumping this up in your inbox. So when you look at these two approaches side by side, hopefully you can see that our suggestions for how to sell the conversation is a more optimum approach that positions you for more success. Now, if you're going to use this approach, certainly you could just manually send these emails out one at a time to each of your prospects. But there are a lot of tools out there that can allow you to automate this series of emails and send these out to a lot of prospects at the same time. And I can just show you what that looks like inside a Sales Scripter, because we have that functionality. And if anything, this can give you some ideas of what you might do either using Sales Scripter or another email automation software platform. But in Sales Scripter, I've created an email campaign using those email templates that I just showed you. So here is that series of emails, and I basically have thousands of prospects going through this email campaign with an email going out each week to those sales prospects. So one of the main benefits there is it's all automated, set it and forget it. You add the contacts, and once you've added a contact to the series, you don't have to think about that again. But another very nice thing about these email automation systems is that most of these software applications will track email opens and links clicked. And that can be extremely valuable data. And to show you how, in Sales Scripter, we actually use a lead scoring system called Prospect Points, and we give quality points automatically every time a prospect opens an email and clicks a link. So they get 1 quality point when they open an email, and they get 3 quality points when they click a link inside the email. So these are the prospects on that email campaign that I just showed you. And as those emails are going out and the prospects are opening and engaging with the email, you have prospects that you can see how many points those prospects are accruing. And what this can do is this can completely transform your cold calling efforts, because you can prioritize which prospects you spend your valuable time calling. So not only can I make a better decision on who I call, but I can call these prospects and have confidence that I'm calling prospects that might know who I am, be warmed up, and might actually be interested in what I'm calling them to have a conversation about. So hopefully that helps you to get some new ideas on how you might approach cold emailing for the product or service that you sell. In the next video in this series, we are going to talk about how this conversation-based selling approach can impact and change how you might use networking to generate leads, and we look forward to seeing you there.